All right, friends, welcome back to the channel. We have our big battle report tonight. We have our second campaign game of Oathmark, 1,500 points of the Dwarves / Halflings going up against the Undead. So here is a look at the Dwarf Halfling list for tonight. We'll start with the main one here, which is our Shire Spears, 19 Spears Halflings, and led by our legendary Halfling champion, Ivan Drago. He has Murderous Blow, and he's got so far 30 experience points he picked up from the last game. Moving on, we've got Boris the Blade, our way overpriced GW model here. Going to be a champion going into that unit of Dwarven Warriors. Behind the spears, we have some Dwarf Archers. We have 15 man strong. We have some Dwarf Soldiers. We were only able to we couldn't get that last full rank on there. We got 14 total. We have an Indrik, which is that bear going tonight. Svetlana, our human level 3 spellcaster. She has Sunblind, she has Stolen March, and she has Courage are her spells. And that is your list tonight for good guys. And tonight's force of undead is led by our Necromancer, level 3, Darth Vader. Could not afford the Lich upgrade for him. We have a Revenant Captain going along tonight as well. We have 20 Skeletal Spears. We have 19 Ghouls, and the Revenant Captain will be joining with them to help lower their activation number a little bit. Give them Command 1 as well. 20 Skeletal Soldiers. And then we have 2 Revenant Chariots tonight. And we have 2 Giant Spiders rounding in our list. Unlike the Dwarves, who get a discount because they have a military academy and they have a legendary character with command, the Undead were not able to utilize their Collegium tonight because they would need to have a spellcaster, legendary spellcaster in the army. They do not. Sadly, he is just Darth Vader, just a human necromancer. Couldn't afford the Lich. That's it. So we'll get right to the straight of the board, get started. So tonight's game, the Undead are the attackers. They have rolled up. It's going to be an invasion. And it's going to be a pitched battle. So we're looking for highest number of enemy kills. Now we've also got for the board, we've got a low wall in the center there. We've got a house over here, which will block line of sight, be impassable. We have a tower over here functioning the same way, impassable, blocking line of sight. You cannot climb on top of the tower for any reason. It's just kind of there. So we'll get to deployment. So we are at deployment now. The Undead have won the initiative or the roll-off. They deployed on this side, denying the Dwarves the use of that low wall there, which would have been nice for their archers, but the Undead picked this side. They've deployed as such. They've got their Revenant Chariot here on the flank. They've got their Ghouls in the center because at nimble keyword, they just go right over that low wall without any penalties. Skeletons, spears, skeleton soldiers, Revenant Chariots over there, along with those 2 spiders. And coming over here, the good guys are a bit of a disadvantage. They did decide to deploy. I deployed them over here. The Shire Spears. Unfortunately, he can't make use of command. He's just out of command range of these Dwarven Archers. But I did feel that with the Courage, they'd be able to handle those dreaded spiders plus that Chariots. They've got a lot of work to do. Their job is to move up here and deny these guys any possible flanking and hold the line at all costs. They should be able to do that. Ivan Drago's in there to buff them with Murderous Blow, though it won't really have much to do on those. Over here, we've got our archers ready to fire, free rank strong. We've got our line breakers, warriors, with our Dwarven champion in the middle to take on the ghouls over there. And then we've got Svetlana behind them, hopefully helping out and buffing them where she can. And over here, we've got our Dwarven soldiers, just their job mainly, and of course, the Indrik the bear over there, to try to keep these guys from harassing on the flanks. And that is it. So the end of round 1, a lot of maneuvering here. So some noteworthy things that happened was that our Necromancer, Darth Vader over there, was successful in casting a fireball. He did pluck off a Dwarven Archer. That was significant because now they've only got 2 complete ranks of 3 for their shooting attack, which followed up on these zombies here. But the benefit of that heavy cover and losing that rank was enough to keep no wounds taken on that attack. And over here, one of the spiders did fail their activation. That's why he's lagging behind. Over there, the bear also had a simple action. He failed his activation. Everybody else made it. She was successful. Melisandre was, or I'm sorry, our spellcaster level 3 human was able to put Stolen March on the Shire Spears over there, which was significant because the Shire Spears failed their activation roll, so they only make one simple action, but they got to do a 5-inch move, another for free, and another 5-inch move, putting them up there pretty far, and they're trying to seal this off over here to kind of keep this thing from getting over here to the archers. And that is pretty much it for round 1. I think I did forget to mention the spells that our Necromancer was carrying Darth Vader for this game. And those spells are Reanimate, Fireball, and Poison Blades. Back in a minute with round 2. So initiative roll for round 2 at the start of it. And the Undead rolled 2 10s, which is a strange event is about to occur. And that is a hero is born. Well, for them, I guess a hero is risen. They get to replace... They get to basically put a free champion on a tray that does not already have a champion. So that could be either the soldiers or the spearmen. And I'll go take care of that right now. Luckily I had a second guy I could put in there. There is our skeletal champion. He is right there in this group of skeletal soldiers, and he is ready to go. So with the first activation of round 2, Darth Vader decides to go ahead and try to throw another fireball up there at those archers, because he has fire over, which means he can use these guys as line of sight for him, as long as he's within 3 inches of it. And then he didn't get it, so he moved his second move, was moving up just behind these guys. And so that was his activation. Next for the good guys was Svetlana. She activated, but she failed her activation roll, so gave her one simple action. The rule book is not clear if she can cast a spell with a simple action. I think she can. So with her one little action, she went ahead and cast Stolen March on the Shire Spears. It went off, moving them up there really close to that chariot and those spiders. But they have brace, so that'll help a little bit with that. And then, of course, she wasn't going to be able to move anyway. She's right on top of these guys, so first blood is drawn. The chariot was able to charge into there with a move action, and he did 2 wounds on him. And the Shire Spears, they had full ranks when the attack started. So they gave him fight 1 plus fight 3, 4. He's at defense 13. He needed 9s or better to get him. They did pretty good. They got a 10 in there, but not enough for anything else. They did 1 wound on him, but his 2 wounds, they lost the combat. They got pushed back. They did pass their morale test, and that's where we stand. Another big combat over here. The skeleton spearmen did charge over here, and they combat with these dwarf soldiers who had already activated this round. And that little 1 penalty for already prior activating when they got in this combat, they were using shielding, which helped a little bit. They still took 3 wounds. These guys only took 2 from the initial combat, plus 1 more for the -2 modifier on the morale test. They auto pass, but they take the extra wound for that. And these guys did fail their morale test. Oh my goodness, they are now disordered. So this is definitely not looking good for the dwarves on this side of the board. So start of round 3, the undead made one big mistake. Those spears, I should have left the soldiers where they were and moved the spears back 1 inch. That would have left room for the chariot to come charging in if they win initiative at the start of round 3, but didn't happen. And as it sits, this initiative roll is a big one because whoever gets it's going to be attacking over here first, most likely. So we will see how it all ends up. Sure. Well, the undead are having the time of their lives. They roll for initiative, got double 6s to the 6 and the 3 versus for the dwarves, and which means another event will happen. And unfortunately for the dwarves, one of their units chosen by the undead stepped on a hornet's nest, and they are now disordered. They chose the dwarven warriors over there next to the soldiers to now become disordered and start the round disordered. But more importantly, with that initiative, they will avoid this chariot will avoid this bear, this Indrik, this term. If they didn't get it, that chariot's probably gone. The undead did go ahead, activate the Revenant chariot. He did a small wheel. He charged into the bear. Bear does have brace 1, which helped a little with that charge bonus, against that charge bonus. He also had shielding, so he chose to use it. These guys only throw 2 dice. He was throwing 4 with the champion dice. But despite all that, there was no hits for either side. And that's just how it ended. move back. So the dwarf warriors were able to rally. They activated now. They rallied, got that disorder token off of them, and marched up into combat and moved into combat with those ghouls. We'll see how it turns out. Results of all that combat was the dwarves only took 3 hits and passed the morale check. And these guys took, I think it was, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 hits off the combat. They lost. They were pushed back an inch, plus 2 more for being unthinking. So for every -2 modifier, they lose an addition guy, but they auto pass their morale checks. So that's why they lost a total of 6. And that's pretty good for the dwarves. So the Shire Spears are taking a beating with that chariot rumbling in there. But the brace one helped a little bit. It dropped his bonus down to a +5 to his, or -5 to his target number. So he still put out, I think it was 3 hits total on these guys. They passed the morale check, barely. And they did put back, surprisingly, they put back a wound on that chariot. Needed 10s to do it. They got a 10. And it wasn't on the champion dice, though. So they put that extra wound, that 1 wound on him. He had 1 already. That chariot has 2 wounds now. So these little guys might be able to, if they can just hang in there, maybe take him out. Dwarves activate their archers next. They're going to try to take a lucky shot at that chariot over there. And their officer can see it. And they took it. They need 10s. He's a defensive 13. They've got to shoot 2, but they've also got an extra rank in there. So a shoot 3 is a 10. 1 10 kills it. And guess what they got? There it is. There's the 10 right there. So the chariot is dead, and the dwarves might have a chance at this battle. So end of round 3. Some things that happened here was Darth Vader did move up, and he cast Reanimate on those spearmen. And he got the spell off, which automatically puts a guy back on. And then for every 10 you roll on your casting dice, you put an additional guy back on. Well, he rolled 2 10s with those 3 dice, putting 3 spearmen back on that tray. Svetlana over here, she had gone ahead and moved behind these archers to get line of sight over here on the Shire Spears and cast the Stolen March to get them back up into the fight. The spiders decided to vacate this whole side of the board, leaving these guys over there, and they're moving this way to try to close in over here and help out on those dwarves. And things are just not looking good for the dwarves right now. I think Darth Vader is just, he's just Darth Vader, man. He's too powerful. So it started round 4, and the dwarves did win initiative. No special events happened. I'm thinking they should go here first, because that bear is, that Indrik's pretty good on the charge, and that would negate the charge for the chariot. Unfortunately, these dwarven warriors here are surrounded. They just have to hold up and do the best they can. The archers are about to get overrun by those skeletal soldiers over there. The Shire Spears are totally out of position to help out this round. And we do have some soldiers back here, but they are disordered. Although it looks bad for the dwarves right now, they are winning the game. They've killed off more points worth of stuff than the undead have. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. They're going to go first with Indrik over this chariot. Well, if you're watching this, unfortunately, the bear didn't quite activate. He gets 1 simple action. He does get a free pivot, I believe. He pivoted and just moved up. He moved as far as he could, tried to get out of line of sight of the chariot. I don't think he did it, because I think you draw a line of sight from the middle of that base there. And if it can cross over any way, and I think it kind of can, you can barely see him. So we'll see what happens. But that was huge, because that bear had to activate to take on that chariot. It didn't happen, and the fight continues. So although it's tempting for the undead to try to activate that remnant chariot and wheel around and hit this bear from the back, well, the Indrik / bear has 5 wounds. He has 5 health. The chariot only has 3. The chariot's only throwing 3 combat dice at the most, and the bear can't use shielding because it's going to hit from the rear. So the most they could do is maybe 3 wounds on him, but not killing him. But the bear might be able to, he's throwing 5 combat dice, one of them being the champion dice. There was a chance he might be able to wipe out that chariot that comes after him. So they're going to go ahead, and I think they're going to go ahead instead, leave the bear where it is, wheel Bandage Gray Angles this way, and move into the fight over here and try to crush the whole center of the Dwarven / Halfling army. So the chariot did activate. It got to go ahead, and it did do a wheel and moved up 7 inches to, they're going to crash the center here. They're throwing everything they got at these Dwarven warriors, and we'll see if they can hold up. But he did activate, so it's over to the dwarves now to see what they can do. So knowing they're going to get charged anyways, the Dwarven archers, they do activate. They fire a volley at these skeletons. They only take one off. They score 3 hits, but the undead rule is you got to have it down to, on shooting attacks, down to 1.5, and always round down, so only one guy goes, and they auto pass their morale, and there's no, you need a -2 modifier on morale to take off another guy. Didn't get that with only one guy gone, so that's all that effort for nothing. But they've got to stay, because if they try to move away, they don't want to expose their wizard, so... So Darth Vader activated next. He did activate successfully. He also cast Fireball, got it off. He got 1 through. They had shielding, so I think shielding means that he was supposed to have a combat 3 shooting attacks. It went down to 2 dice, but he got a 10 and a 5. The 10 was good enough to put a hit on these guys. The dwarves did pass their morale, so they're still kind of hanging in there. So that one went. So end of round 4. A few more things happened here. We'll start over here. The spider on the left, your left, he failed in activations, moved up. That other spider on the right did activate and just made it to those dwarves, the dwarf warriors there in the center. He did, I think, a point. He took off a guy, and they had shielding, so they took off. They put a wound on him, and that was it. They both pushed back an inch. Over here, they passed their morale, though. And the ghouls were going to hope to follow and finish them off, but they didn't. They failed their activation and just kind of stuck there. Vader had done a fireball earlier and took off another guy earlier, but again, they passed their morale. They're pretty resilient. Over here, the spears, the soldiers did move up, and they did move into combat with the spears. They kind of whiffed. They really didn't do well at all. They took, I think it was, they lost 2 or 3 guys off of that. Over here, this wrapped up this round right over here. So the skeletal spear, these soldiers did, and they've got a champion in there now. They did move up here and hit these guys pretty hard. They took off, I think, 3 more of them. The champion dice did help a little bit on that. And that was it. That's the round. So I would say things aren't looking good for the dwarves right now. Although I will say that with a little bit of luck, these dwarf warriors are taking on almost the entire undead army by themselves and just going toe-to-toe with them, including that necromancer Darth Vader over there. This is kind of crazy. I did forget to mention that little blue jewel you see with the dwarf warriors was our Svetlana back there. She did cast Courage 1 on these guys. They'll have Courage 1 for the rest of the game, and they're probably going to need it coming up against all this. Oh, well, the dwarves did win initiative, so the Shire Spears, they decided to activate first. They did. They moved in on the side, these guys in the flank. Pushed out a lot of damage, you can see right there. They just really did their job. Unfortunately, their champion, on his champion dice, only rolled a 7, so he wasn't able to apply all those hits to their champion. And Murderous Blow did not kick in because you need a 10, 9, or 8. He only rolled a 7 on his, so that champion is safe. Now it's time for the skeletons to fight, but they had 3 complete ranks. They're going to throw 3 combat dice plus a champion dice, because that champion, remember earlier when that champion was risen in the special event, and he's in there now? So the one thing that these guys don't want to have happen is for this guy to roll a 10 and apply those hits on their champion, who only has, poor Ivan Drago only has 2 health. Well, I'll take you over here and show you. I just think it's the Darth Vader influence, I think. And of course they did. That is a 10 on the champion dice. So Ivan Drago's dead. They're going to apply both of those hits to him. And they only had, I think they had 1 other hit. So Ivan Drago is dead. The legendary hero is gone. Now, all is not lost. Even though Ivan Drago is dead in our casualty zone over here, at the end of the game, he can roll on the survival table to see if he survives, and perhaps he can still live to fight on for future battles. We'll see. But this has other devastating effects for this unit because they lost their officer. For the rest of the game, they nominated a new one. He's already up there, and they're only down to rolling 1 dice for morale tests and activation tests for the rest of the game. And this is pretty catastrophic because those little halfling spears only have an activation number of 6, so they might not even activate every round moving out. So anyways, that's what happened there. So the undead will activate next, and they're going to activate these ghouls because he has a revenant captain in there, which means he has command 1. So if he activates, he can try to tell these guys to try to activate. If they activate, they can both go, and the order will be chosen doesn't matter the order you go in. So that's what's going to happen, and it did happen. They activated, and these guys activated. So now the question is, how do you want to do this? I think it's best to have the ghouls go in first, hit, push them. If they win the combat, push them back an inch. If they lose it, they'll get pushed back an inch, and then have the chariots go in and finish them off. We'll see what happens. These are the toughest dwarf warriors I've ever seen. So the ghouls went first. Okay, so they moved in. They did take off one wound as shown there. They haven't done their morale test yet because now the dwarves are going to hit back at them. And they're rolling just 4 dice. They had shielding, so they had the champion dice and 3 other dice. And they need a target number, so it was 9 minus 3. Put them at 6s, and look what they got. Oh my gosh, that is 4 hits plus an extra hit for that champion dice. That's 5 hits total. See, well, it was defensive 9. They have a fight 2 plus an extra. They had an extra rank when they started, so a fight 3. So 3. Yeah, that's 6s. Wow, that's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits on that. Wow, huge. That combat's been resolved, and the dwarves won the combat. They pushed back these ghouls an inch, and now it's time for the Revenant Chariot to go teed up on these guys. As we said before, with the command 1, the Chariot did act again, hits him on the side. They did use their shielding, so he had 2 dice. He did pluck off a wound, barely, on them, so they took 1 hit. They didn't do any hits back. He's got a defense of 13, and they only had the champion die and the 1 die to work with. Just couldn't punch that through. And they passed their morale check, and that's where we are. So these Dwarven warriors have now withstood a chariot charge on their flank, and the ghouls hit them in the front with a bunch of ranks. But the spiders and necromancers have to activate yet, and so far these guys are going toe-to-toe with almost the entire undead army. So end of the round, things were a little sticky. The bear did activate, and it was able to move himself up here. Hopefully get back in the fight next round. The Dwarven warriors here in the center are still holding on despite getting hit from a chariot, the ghouls, a fireball from the necromancer, which took off a wound, and 2 spiders, 1 from the rear. Despite the horrific keyword, these guys, thanks to Courage 1 being cast on by the Svetlana back there, they are just holding on and just taking all this punishment. And over here, some scrape over here, the Dwarven soldiers did win the fight. They peeled off about, I think it was 4 skeletal spearmen. And then over here, not much happening over here. Again, the big noteworthy thing here in this round was that the Halfling champion is out of action, and we'll find out what happens at the end of the game. And that is it. On to round 6. So initiative roll for round 6. The undead's going to get it, but the dwarves got double 8s, which is heroic charge, which means one of their people gives a stirring speech, and the first unit that moves into combat will get an additional +2 to its fight for that round. So we'll see who gets that and when it happens. So end of round 6. That's what it looks like over here. Bear finally got in the fight and just put a can of whoop ass on those ghouls over there, leaving us just our our champion dwarf going up against our revenant captain there. But they and Vader did cast another fireball, but it didn't land and do any damage on the dwarves. The skeletal spears did fail their activation. They weren't able to move into combat. The dwarves decided they did pass their activation, but decided to sit tight and want to use shielding next round. Over there, their disorder, the archers, they shot at the soldiers. Then they moved into combat with them and just tried to desperation, but it just didn't work out for them. It took a lot of hits. Our human spellcaster did put Courage 1 on somebody. I think it was the halflings over there. Try to help them out a little bit, and that's just where we stand, guys. So we'll see. I think it really comes down to I think the gameplay here is the bear's gonna have to come through and kill this, and then maybe get over there, or maybe I don't know. We'll see. So starting round 7, dwarves win initiative, and he's going to move into combat. Our dwarven champion moves in with that revenant champion, or not champion, but he is a captain. Now the dwarf as a unit of 1, this dwarf champion will throw 3 combat dice, one of them being the champion dice. The revenant captain's only throwing 1, so he probably should win this one against that revenant. We'll see. So had our first Oathmark with battles of 1. We had a champion going against a revenant captain, and their stats change now because they're units of 1. And so the champion was throwing 3 combat dice, one of them being the champion dice. The Revenant Captain was, I think, was only throwing 1, but he had to fight 3. The champion, I think, had to fight 4. But either way, they both killed each other, so that's it. In a cowardice move, unlike Darth Vader, not wanting that bear to activate eventually and charge into him and kill him, he was going to use these spiders as blockers, but there's no guarantee they activate and block that bear. So he decided not to take any chances. He activated. He did a move action, putting him over here, and he'll do another move, putting him further away. I'll tell you what, these Dwarven bears are pretty tough. That chariot slammed in there pretty hard. You only put 2 wounds on him. Bear unfortunately whiffed on his attack. He got nothing on the chariot. Dwarven archers, they fired some shots. Then they did a move into combat. It didn't go well for them. They plucked off a couple guys, one with the shot, one with the fight, with the melee, but they took a lot, man. The champion over there, remember that guy earlier in the game, the hero was risen? That champion just sniped out their officer. Now they've only got 1 after that for their morale test, 1 dice now as a result of it. And they failed it. Now they're disordered on top of everything else. So end of round 7. So the dwarves tried to wheel their way back, and the spears went in at them. The spears did more damage, won the combat, took off a dwarf. Dwarves did nothing back. Got pushed back an inch. Darth Vader said before he's running over there. He's got to stay alive, otherwise the whole army crumbles. Pretty much where we are. The spiders now have, this one's going after those halflings over there. This one and the chariot are going to gang up on the bear, and we're going to round... We are in round 8 now, and the Shire Spears finally activated with their 1 little activation dice. Punched out a pretty good amount of damage, took off, I think, 3 of these guys. Plus 1 more because the morale, the unthinking rule, no, the unthinking, the uncaring rule, or something like that. The luck of the Irish halflings. That spider right there failed his activation and cannot charge into combat with them and save their... This one activated for the end of the game was Darth Vader himself. He could have reanimated, but probably at most put one guy back on here, or he takes a shot with the fireball at those halflings. He does. It goes off. He kills 2 of them, so it's going to help their score out better. And he is on fire. I think that fireball is going off almost every time he's used this game. So he's Darth Vader. So while they're burying the dead from the battle, let's go over the casualties and the kills here. So the undead killed 782 points worth of the Dwarven army, and the dwarves killed 745 points worth of the undead armies. The undead was the attacker, and they did win the battle. So they will choose to occupy the ancient glade in Rustonia, which is right here on the outskirts, and they'll try to work their way, probably work their way in, maybe go to the Halfling Village next and lumber yards, and hopefully get the capital if it works out for them on that. So that was that. Then we went over here, we did Ivan Drago. Well, he gets 10 experience points. He has 40 total for the campaign now. He escaped with flesh wounds, so he will live to fight another day. No battle honors were awarded this game. No one met the criteria. And then we had some events after the battle. There was a meteor shower for the dwarves. The next battle, any unit with heavy armor is 1 point cheaper. And then the undead had a fire leaf supply, which means 3 infantry units get the wild charge next game. If they have wild charge already, like the ghouls, they don't get the double dip. They just have no effect on them. And so next game we have coming up will be, the attacker will be the dwarves. It'll be a border strike, and we'll see how that goes for game 3 of the campaign. And guys, that is it for today's episode, and thanks for watching our battle report, and I will see you soon.